to the Cinementalists. Noun, plural. Definition, those whose love for movies runs so deep, they can't help but do a podcast about them. Hosted by Colton Robertson and Joseph George. Hello everybody and welcome in to the Cinementalists. We begin a new month. It is October. Spooky season, some might call it, and we are going to be focusing in on some horror classics for the next few weeks in anticipation of Halloween, and we are beginning today with Psycho, released on September 8th, 1960, written for the screen by Joseph Stefano, based off the novel by Robert Bloch, directed by the legendary Alfred Hitchcock. I'm Colton Robertson. I'm joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And man, was this your first Alfred Hitchcock? First you getting under your belt? Yeah.
Yeah.
One of his most iconic. You know, you've certainly heard of a few of the others. You know, he's been around the block. The name's been spun a few times. This was not a first viewing for me. It was a first viewing for you, however. How'd you feel about Psycho?
Yeah. I don't know, I do see a lot of classic horror inspirations off of this movie. That was really fun to see, and it's always nice to go back and have a black and white movie. Just I'm so used to just seeing color movies, and to go back in the 60s. I don't know, it was nice. It added a nice feel to the movie too. I don't know, it just feels more horror for some reason. Yeah. Like I don't know, but it was I had a complete wrong read on the movie at the very beginning. Completely, I thought Marion, is that's her name, right? I thought Marion was eventually going to be the one to go crazy and go psycho. This
sets up a trope that if someone in a movie now has a protagonist that is the main character for half the movie, and then the other half of the movie is a new thing, they ripped Psycho. You know, that is where it might not be the first thing it does it, but it's certainly the most iconic thing that's done it. And it's definitely been something that's been taken for horror movies. A massive shift in tone, a massive shift in story, not just a character thing, but like, oh, this movie became a new movie after the halfway point, because for the first half of the movie, it's a not lighthearted, but a paranoid, on the run. I'm just lady just trying to make it. She's like, fuck it, let's get it, and then. Yeah, things shift about 40-50 minutes into the hour and 50-minute movie, and dude,
Ned Stark. Well, I guess Ned Stark actually, I know it's the other way around. That Game of Thrones came after, but just killing the main. I didn't think she would actually die so soon. I thought that somehow she would live through it, or something, and
just dead.
Crawl out, become, this is her villain arc, and makes her go crazy. This is the last straw sort of thing. But no, not at all.
Not Marion Crane, just dead.
Because she even had those, like, the moments in the car whenever she was, like, thinking of what the people were saying, and I'm like, I mean, normal people, this isn't a psychotic thing to do.
No,
she's
but
worried,
voices in your head.
Like, and she, was just acting, getting to the point where I could see a psychotic break happening. And but I knew that Norman Bates, like, just the look of him, I knew,
shows up and you're like, oh, that's the Psycho, like
that's the guy.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's the guy. I don't. So I knew, at least when he showed up, or just even the poster, like, from him. He's just, this movie's iconic enough that the villain is just, I feel like, known. It is kind of like a Darth Vader. Like, is being Luke's father. It's just kind of known now because of how popular it was. And
it's funny to know that this is, like, it permeates so thoroughly through later movies. Its influence is so strong that the twists and turns this movie takes almost feel basic, even though they are massive firsts at the time. It's like, oh shit, but watching it now for the first time, you're a little bit like, oh,
like, That's
yeah, sure. I guess, and
that's kind of, I wish I could put myself in that mindset of 1960 where these things are happening for the first time and people are like, whoa, that's fucking awesome. And it's, nowadays it seems that it needs to be something crazy, grand to really shock people. But I don't know, it just happened to be the first people to do it. And it's,
no, yeah. And this was, I mean, like, I love this movie, man. This is one that I am happy to watch time and again. I'm on a yearly basis with this movie right now. That's kind of how I'm operating, and I've grown to appreciate Hitchcock a great deal. This actually isn't probably not even quite close to being my favorite Hitchcock either. He's got some great movies under his belt, and in fact, this is the newest Hitchcock movie I've watched, which lends further credence to the black and white 60s thing. Like, his other movies that I've watched are in color and in the 50s.
So he chose.
So he chose black and white because it makes it feel like a classic horror movie. Like it feels like that. And like, it's shot beautifully. It is wonderful to look at. And I think that like what he managed to do with this movie is really impressive. I've always appreciated it. And I think that, I mean, Norman Bates, we also exist in a time where we actually have a prequel series to Psycho, and the Bates Motel, which you've almost certainly heard of, ran for several seasons. And we got the young Norman Bates growing up in the hotel with, I believe it's Vera Farmiga who plays his mom in that show.
I don't even know if I want to watch that now. Now, like, seeing the movie, that's just, I don't want to see this dude's childhood. I mean,
a boy's best friend is his mother.
Dude, he was fucking creepy. Like, dude.
Yeah, good. Favorite performance for sure. I loved Anthony Perkins as Norman Bates. He's very good at it, and I
think it is probably clear
frightening
that it. Yeah, it's like it's he's going crazy, but he's not actually crazy. Maybe I don't know. I guess I don't know him in real life, but he seems very crazy by the end of the movie here. And
now, relatively, I mean, he's an actor, so crazy in the way that all actors are crazy, but not clinically.
I wanted to give Janet Leigh, as Marion, while she was in the movie, I thought did a very, very good job. I just wanted to give her a nod, but the clear, I think. I can't really go with, I don't know, character. It's like weird to want to go with him for like the character of the movie because like I obviously don't
definitely the most interesting
stand behind him at all. Obviously I don't like the guy, but it is just a twist, that comes at the end of him just being his mother, taking his mother in, and having to create that facade. I was like, why? Like just a crate for 1960. I don't know. It feels for some reason that this is like controversial in 1960. Like I don't know why they had to like cover the like. So he's a transvestite. And they're like, well, no, actually, here's how it actually boils down. And love that dude's voice, by the way, the psychiatrist like voice that comes in and.
He's like, let me come in and give you a huge exposition drop to wrap up this film.
So let me explain everything that's going on in this dude's mind for you. So you don't have to have any doubts at all.
Nobody has to wonder what happened here. You will know for a fact what happened when you leave this screening. It's really good. It's really strong. And that's, and I did like that explanation at the end that you were like, so he's trans. And they were like, no. Somebody who does that wants to do that, and it's not it's that's who they are. That is what they want to do, and that was relatively ahead of its time. I feel like to be like, no, that's that. If that happens, that's who they are. This isn't who he is. This is a whole other thing going on. I really appreciated that. I thought that there's so much fantastic tension building. I love the entering into his back room. His what's he called it? I can't remember what he calls it.
The saloon? No, parlor. Maybe
the parlor. Yes, his parlor, and it's just lined with stuffed birds. I absolutely adore it, and the way that they end up. There's a shot of him watching Arbogast look through his his book of names and everything, where he like turns his head all the way to the side, and the camera stays like underneath him, and his nose starts to look like a beak, and he starts to look like a bird in the room.
Whoa.
And then he reverts back normal, and he goes back to one, and it's like, oh, cool. You know, like Alfred Hitchcock is a fantastic visual storyteller, and the way he kind of parallels the idea that he is hollow but full of something else. You know, like there's something teeming within him that isn't that's fighting to get to the surface, and I absolutely love it. And I mean, like, you know, if the way he describes his relationship to taxidermy, where a hobby takes up some of your time, it's not all of your time. It's like, no, taxidermy also shouldn't be all of your time.
Yeah, even if it is just birds. You know, he was like, well, I just don't like the way beasts look when they're stuffed. You know, at least I do that. At least I just do birds. And it's like, because they're just passive creatures. It's just whatever. You know, they just look okay when they're stuffed up. It's like, I don't know. Always a weird thought to me to just hang an animal up on your wall.
Yeah, I've never been a fan. Never been a fan of that practice.
But, yeah, it's just an instant red flag. I love Marion sits down, she sees them, and she's like, oh, okay. Like, my
this is the room I want to eat in.
Yeah, has changed. And yeah, what kind of pissed him off? What was like, because he was all just kind of, you know, talking to her like normal, but then she said something like, was it about his mom, or was it about
his mom? That's when we start hearing about his mom, you know.
Because like, I mean, he sat up, you know, he like leaned forward and was like, no, like she got really scared at that point, you know, like she was like, oh fuck, like I did not mean to say sorry, you know, my intentions were good, you know, I didn't mean that, whatever, like, and he was just, you just don't understand, well, you know, and then he just kind of like sat back and, well, anyway, you know, later, and just went back to normal talk, and it's just like, you're just like, that is not a normal
human
being,
how you're supposed to do,
you know,
that.
like it's just like there's this hardwire problem. You know, something's wrong up in there, and yeah, just the slow change over the movie, and then like even whenever he's picking out just like her key, you know, like, and he's just slowly going through all of them, but just to arrive at like number one, you know, and like just to pick up that key and give it to her. She doesn't see that, like, while he's doing that. I don't know, she's like doing something else, but like, it's just these subtle little weird things that he does that are just like,
well, it's also like, what's he pretending for? You know, like, he knows he wants to put her in one because he knows he wants to look through his peephole.
Yeah.
You know? But he's like, I don't know.
I gotta act like I'm gonna, what room should I put you in? All of them are literally empty. Yeah, like,
in fact, it would have been more natural to just reach for one, brother. Like, that's first. Duh. You know, like, she doesn't have to go too far. It's right around the corner. Hey, fuck it. You know, but yeah, so I think that, I also like the explanation at the end that, like, and it's something you can gather, but, so, I appreciate that they try to explain it to the audience, but like there is an element to it where I'm like, do we have to explain every single thing like, that happened in this movie?
Literally.
Yeah. Because the way he explains that at any time that Norman experienced attraction, he became, like, his mom became so jealous of him that she came to the surface and took matters into her own hands. And that's my favorite scene of the movie is the first murder. The first time he kills Marion. Just because that scene's iconic, you know, it created almost evolutionary nightmares for humans.
New fear. New fear
you know,
unlocked.
I mean, we've all been at some point in the shower. You close your eyes to wash your hair, and you're like,
"Nope,
this is it. This is where I die." Yep. You know,
I'm going to die. Why is that a thing? Why you are in your own home?
Was Psycho feeding on that fear that already existed, or did it kind of spur that fear? I imagine it was feeding on a fear that already existed, but
definitely made it apparent though.
Yeah.
Like now it's like I don't know. It's I'm born with
silhouette of the person on the in the curtain, and you're like,
that might be my shot. I mean, you know, when the camera's like it's put back and you see her and then the shower curtain. And
and you're like, okay, well, someone's about to walk in that fucking door.
And you're like, well, something's clearly about to go down. And,
right.
But I don't know. I love it. It's classic. I guess kind of cheesy now, but not cheesy at all whenever it came out. And that's why cheesy might be the wrong word, but, we see it as simple now, but I don't know. That doesn't feel right either.
No, I mean, story-wise it is, but I don't think there's anything simple about the filmmaking that's going on here. There's some absolutely brilliant filmmaking choices, you know. I specifically when Arbogast decides he's going to go to the house himself, and he walks in and he walks up the stairs, and we get that aerial view of them from above. She comes out, starts trying to stab him, and then the dolly zoom of him falling down the stairs. That's my favorite shot. Whenever
the dolly zoom. I was like, I don't know. I was not expecting a dolly zoom here. I don't know. That was really cool. That I didn't really have any, I guess, other wallpaper or kind of like visual, like, whoa, look at this. Other than his house kind of reminded me of the Scooby-Doo, like the animated intro of Scooby-Doo. Like, it feels kind of, I don't know. I don't know if it is. Like, was the cartoon made before 1960 or
It's hard to say. Like, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what the original Scooby-Doo cartoon was. Let's see.
But the house just, I don't know, that reminded me of it. There was just a really kind of like nighttime shot with the like one or two windows were lit up, and it was just very eerie, looked like just a haunted house kind of looking. Was one of the shots I was maybe thinking about going with, but
about 9 years after this movie, so probably a degree of inspiration.
I feel maybe, but that looked nice. Let's see, his creepy smile at the end. I don't know. I love one of those, like a Clockwork Orange, getting the creepy face.
That actually is when he delivers my favorite line of the movie, when they're doing the little sign off monologue, and I won't do a thing. They'll think, why, she couldn't hurt a fly. That's that part. I was like, I like that. This movie actually has two sequels, Psycho 2 and Psycho 3.
Wow.
Neither of which are to any degree heralded in the way that this one is.
Did Hitchcock make them?
No.
Oh, okay.
Psycho 2 was 23 years later. And Psycho 3 was 3 years after that. So, trying to kind of revitalize it. And Psycho 3 was actually directed by Anthony Perkins himself.
Okay. So I guess he wanted to come back. He was having a good time with it. But yeah, that's American Psycho, a lot of Christian Bale inspiration here. I feel like just the empty human, but acting like a full, I don't know, like
full
everything's
form
fine.
Being.
And some of the facial I don't know. I feel like some of Patrick Bateman's a whole different kind of character. He's playing the playboy kind of guy, but
literally in the name too, Patrick Bateman, Norman Bates. I think there is a there is and the name of the movies, Psycho and American Psycho. No, man, I think that the first half of the movie is obviously, it's exhilarating, you know. It's fun because you don't know what you're getting into. It immediately takes off. We're immediately into it, and then we pivot, and the back half of the movie becomes this. You're trying to find the culprit that you know exists, but you don't know how it exists, and we got the investigation side of it. When Arbogast and Lila really come into the fold is when this movie kind of takes off for me. Lila's my favorite character of the movie. I love her presence, and fantastic casting for a sister, by the way. Like, to the point where the first time I watched this, I had to look it up to see if Janet Leigh was playing the other. Both. Yeah, like I was like, were they like, oh, we killed you halfway through, go ahead and play the double role here? Like, that was kind of what I was thinking, but no, just utterly brilliant casting for a sister duo. And that's a classic Hitchcock. loves blonde women. You watch pretty much any Hitchcock movie, and that lead's going to be a blonde lady.
He's got his thing.
Yes, he's got his bag. He does
well,
indeed.
At least it's not like a Tarantino foot thing where it's like so clearly like put there. At least it's just I don't know.
Yeah, worse things, worse fetishes, I suppose.
But
or more.
Don't want to shame it at all.
No,
I guess,
no,
but just
no.
like at least it's just like hair. I don't know, just a normal like blonde. It wouldn't be seen as I don't know clearly. No, you're wanting to be behind the camera and I don't know. Stare through
Wash
the lens.
Feet. Yeah. No, it's but I think that Hitchcock does a fantastic job with this movie. I think that there was he's a master at suspense, one of the when the end of the movie whenever she's hiding from him and she goes down to the basement and finds his mom's body and stuff like that's a brilliant scene. The way that you saw him conk out the dude prior, so you're like, oh, she's fucked. Like she is fucked. If he finds her, she is dead. Goddamn, what are we gonna do? And that's why I loved it. I love the ending of this movie. I love this movie. I think that it's so much. It's funny to say, but it's fun. It's a fun fucking movie, man. Like it's it's.
It gets you to be like, no, like there's a lot of like back and forths. Like whenever Norman's like cleaning out the room after he's killed her and like the money's still left there. It's the only thing he hasn't touched yet. You're like, really? You're like, really? The one thing that's going to be left in the room, and then like the car drives by and he goes back, grabs it, puts it in the trunk, and you're like, oh, that happens. And then whenever, what's the sister's name?
Lila.
Whenever Lila is in the house and you're like, you just want her to go, downstairs is where she needs to go. That's where we know she needs to go, but she goes upstairs first, and we do see all the upstairs, which is cool to see. But then whenever she's like down in the stairs and kind of hiding there, you're like, you kind of want her to go down there, but not at the same time.
You can't. You're like, you need to find what's down there, but not right now, because that's where he's going to check. That's where he is going to go.
Dude,
it's a wonderful tension building. Hitchcock's just a master of suspense. He's the one who famously said that, there's a terror in a group of men playing cards, and there's a bomb under the table and it goes off. There's an obvious terror to that. But what's more interesting is the ticking away. The idea that it is, it's there, and it's there, they know it's there, but they can't move. That's the more exciting part of it. He's absolutely right. Jordan Peele said a similar thing about the monster behind the door. You don't want to see the monster, you want to know it's there, but you can't see it. It creates the mystery, and I feel like that's what this does so perfectly. It creates that mystery for you, and while you can kind of guess where it's going a little bit, not fully, but there's something. Whenever they're like, "Oh, his mom's been dead for a while," you're like, "Okay."
You're something.
You're like, it's not paranormal, but it's something. Something's going on. She's tangible.
Maybe was a replace. When the sheriff was like, "What if she's there? Then whose body is in the grave?"
Right.
Or, like I don't know, just the voices of the sheriff, the detective, and the psychiatrist. I don't know, all just classic kind of noir. Just it was perfect. But whenever he says that, I was like, so maybe like his mom is actually dead, but this is a new person playing his mom, like his love. I don't know. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then, just, I don't know. I don't know when it fully clicked.
There just comes a point where the more they refuse to show the woman's face, you go, okay. Well, there's something else going on here. But like I absolutely love the scene. It sucks to say, I love Marion's murder. I think that's one of the best, most influential scenes in all of movies. We actually covered last night in Soho on Penny Bloom podcast for the Anya Taylor-Joy Spotlight, and the scene where the knife is coming up and down and you see her reflection in it is like directly influenced from Psycho here. It's and that's just one small example. The blood swirling down the drain. Oh. Yes, like that's a classic image.
That.
And I feel like even in Cure, to a degree. You remember the first murder that happens, and the washing up in the bathroom, and the
Okay.
like that whole thing. I feel like there's just so much. There's so much. I feel like that it transcends, the time. And I feel like there is a certain timelessness to this movie because of its classicness. And I feel like that's kind of the power black and white gives you, to a degree. I was actually listening to Roger Ebert, one of my favorite film critics ever, and to nobody's surprise, he's a pretty fucking famous film critic. His autobiography called Life Itself, and he talked about his affinity for black and white photography versus color photography, because there's a heightened realism or surrealism to black and white photography. When you look at your grandparents' wedding photos versus your parents' wedding photos, your grandparents' wedding photos are in black and white. It looks elegant. It looks different. Your parents look a little goofy. And I think there's something to that. I don't fully agree with it, but there is something to it. And, I think this movie benefits greatly from being in black and white. Now there's obviously there's a visceral nature it could have gained from color photography, the blood splatter and the blood running down the drain. That's the only time whenever you're kind of like, it would be cool if this was in color. But, beyond that, it absolutely doesn't need to be, and, it creates the imagery of the parlor much more starkly, the black and white, and I think that there's a thematic thing they're playing with there in the black and white. Like, not everything is black and white. Like, you think you can understand something, but it's actually the other way, or there's a gray area. It's occupying, and I think it's really sound. And I feel like a lot of my favorite imagery comes from the parlor, though. Like because I feel like the walls are kind of slitted, and there's also like
there's a lot
the strong shadows, and it's a really all-encompassing image that I feel like really fills your field of vision and keeps you busy looking all over and all that. But
and the house, I don't know, I wish we got a little more time in the house. That was just a really, I don't know, just an old-timey classic house. I don't know, it looks very nice in black and white as well. And maybe it would have been cool if, like, the movie is black and white, but then the blood is the only thing that's in color.
Right.
Just red coming out whenever there is a killing. But no, I think it's kind of like it is interesting that Foley had the capabilities of doing color, but choosing to go black and white, and just, I think it is to make it like a timeless sort of thing.
It's not a price thing. Alfred Hitchcock was well established come this point. He could have gotten the money to do Technicolor if he wanted.
This could have came out in the 40s for all. This movie could have been made whenever. Like, really, there's no.
It does more emulate the black and white Universal monster movies and the 40s noirs, and I feel like it blends those elements and creates a psychological slasher flick in
monster.
The 60s. That's cool, that's really, really cool. And it is kind of groundbreaking, and I feel like more so than any, like when it came to the monster movies, you Dracula and Frankenstein and the Mummy and stuff like that. And there are horror movies that predate this, but when it comes to Scream, Ghostface and I know Friday the 13th that Jason's not, Jason is a human,
but a twisted, twist. It can't
Halloween,
just be a monster.
Halloween, Michael Myers. He's. I feel like this permeates through and kind of creates
100%
creates that genre almost. Like it's funny because this obviously predates the slasher as we know it. And it's not slasher in the typical way we think of a slasher movie, but it has that element to it where they hide the slasher's face, and the tension builds, and they come up and stab somebody out of nowhere, and it's like and I think that's part of what makes it so influential. Is I think that the slasher genre almost exists because of Psycho. You know what I'm saying?
It's like pre-1960. They needed it to be a monster or something inherently scary. Just be, if it's Dracula, it's a vampire. Like, we're going to be scared of vampires. We're going to be scared of a Frankenstein's monster. Blah blah blah. But it's almost more scary to have it be a human. Like there is nothing monstrous about them other than their nature. Like it's like they're just an evil human, and that is as scary, or maybe even scarier than these monsters that were coming before. And then I feel like post 1960, it was kind of accepted, like, oh, like maybe this is better of having humans as like the antagonist, but then they needed to always have that twist. It needed to be like well, Michael Myers is a monster and he's unkillable and kind of, whatever, but he was a human at one point.
Yeah, exactly.
There always is a human touch to the monsters now.
Well, and I think it's just the idea that, like, there's a scariness to the idea that this is something that humans can become, Like, this guy just loved his mother that much. Like, you know how rare it is to not love your mom? You know what I'm saying? So, like, anybody watching this is like, like, I love my mom, what the fuck, And I think that there's a funny, because this person almost certainly exists, and that's scary,
just living in a small town, never got out, just that's all he knew, and yeah, I don't know. It is that is almost scarier, just that it is just a human. It could be anybody, and could stop at a motel. Motels, were they scary before this movie? I don't know. Was stopping at a motel like just that because the cop was like, "Hey, why'd you sleep on? You could have just stopped at a motel, whatever." But motels are kind of seen now as like, they're a little risky, and you gotta. I don't know. It's you're taking a risk if you're staying at a motel, but shit, was it before? I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
This is the smallest. Why did I notice this? Why does every single time someone gets out of their car, they get out of the passenger door? They never open the driver door. Ever. There's not a single time. They crawl over to the passenger door and go out that way. It made sense when Marion did it in the rain because it was closer to like the door, whatever, just to get there. But like when what's the I'm just calling them
Arbogast.
Arbogast. Yeah, when Arbogast pulls up, he gets out of his passenger side door to go up in there. And Sam, whenever he pulls up, gets out of the passenger side. Like they both, whenever Sam and
Lila
arrive, they both get out of the passenger side. They're like, and I was just like, what the fuck? I'm like, is this just to fuck? Like, is this what people did in the 60s? Like, was this normal behavior to get out of the passenger side door? Or is it in the movie just to be like, to make it weird, just like, I mean,
I didn't notice that.
It's every time. And I don't know how I noticed it. It was just, I noticed it the first time. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. It's raining. It makes sense. But then the second time, I'm like, that's a little strange. It's not raining. There's no reason. They were by themselves. That's weird. And it just kept happening every time. But yeah, I didn't know if it was purposeful or if it was just something of the time.
Yeah, I'm looking into it. You're not the first person who has asked this question.
Why does Milton Arbogast exit? Yeah, see, Arbogast did it. Yeah. Side note, yeah. This actually happens every time somebody exits a car in the film, and quite a few other films of this era too. Possible reasons for this: Hitchcock.
He's English, so that's the driver's side door. But
wow, I guess I.
But there's also the idea that cars weren't made with like the way they are now. It was a flat. So,
there is no thing to climb over.
Yeah,
but like, why
so like
not
if
just
you
go
get
to the
out,
door that's...
it might just be habitual. Like usually you park on the side of the road, and if you are driving, that would be the traffic side. So you just habitually get out on the passenger side.
Yeah. And I guess the steering wheel is just not in your way when you
just
like
get
you
out.
Just
slide. So like.
Maybe it just makes more sense.
Yeah, no, but that is a peculiar behavior specific, like a timeliness that like we cannot.
I thought
relate
I was
to
going
now.
crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I'm like, wait, like what? Why are it's every time?
Yeah, this was asked. I found something on Ask Metafilter from June 2006. Something on Stack Exchange from 2014. So yeah, it's something that Quora. why does the driver of the car enter on the passenger side in old movies? Yeah.
I guess it just makes more sense.
Yeah.
But to our brain, it's just why. But
it's like,
we have a console now and
exactly.
and everything or whatever. But just a thing at the time.
I didn't even clock that. That's funny. Glad we got to the bottom of that mystery. And I think that it's a really simple movie, man. You know, like it is, you know, and I think that its influence is innumerable. It's just it's influenced so much, and I'm incredibly thankful to have this movie. It's not one that I feel like I can talk about a lot. It's just so the characters aren't super deep. Everything's pretty surface level. You know, I love that Marion is sleeping with a guy, but their reasons for not being able to move forward are kind of unspecified. Like he's paying alimony and
he's in debt or something. He's waiting for his debts to be cleared. And they're like, oh, fuck it, let's just get married. But then, you know, if money's the problem, why doesn't she go back to him and be like,
she gets the money and leaves.
Yeah, she just dips, which, fuck it. She's going to a private island, I guess, if that's for real. That's kind of sick.
Looking for a private island. I've got $40,000.
Yeah, how much is $40K in 1960s money? That's probably a pretty penny.
Pretty good. Look up a little inflation calendar there. But
let's see. A good old 40K is, wow, this is very, $425,000.
It's a pretty penny. That's a quick little payday.
Maybe no private I don't know. I don't know what islands go for, but I feel like they're in the millions.
You know, maybe she's looking for a stay at a private island. Maybe not buying a private island, but like somewhere she can lay low.
Yeah. I don't know. Even the first half of the movie, though, like I feel like a lot of the part of the movie people know, or like that this movie's known for, is the second half, the killing, and then the second half. But even the first half, like it's building tension in things that like aren't inherently scary or
the car dealership thing was an incredible sequence. I love that scene where the dealer's like, okay, yeah, you're being weird about this, but yeah, we can make that happen. She's looking across the street. The cop keeps looking at her. Pulls up into the driveway. She pulls off before she gets her luggage and stuff. Like it's there's a real impressive tension building. Seeing her boss when she's driving away, you know, and then being like, fuck, her thinking about
voices,
it.
In her head.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is that on rewatch, it's possible. Yes, I think she is thinking about this as a possibility, but I do think she's like, these are conversations that are being had. Maybe not at that particular time, you know, like, cause there's later on in the movie, Lila says like, her boss said that she saw him, or he saw her driving away, you know, the day she got off early, you know, we hear that conversation in her head, you know, so I'm curious if it's like she's just worried about that and they are in that moment showing us that like
conversation. Decision versus actually voices in her head.
And I think it's both. Like, I think it's like she is worried about this. This is what she is thinking about. This is also, however, happening. This is how it happened, you know? And so I think that there is a degree of like, the first time you watch, you enter a movie called Psycho. You hear the voices in the head. It's more on rewatch that I got that sense that it was something that was actually happening, not just voices in her head. And I love that touch. I think that the sequences where she is driving the car, God, the way they capture how hellish it is to drive at night while it's raining, and the headlights blinding you. I was like, yep, you got to pull over. You're fucked. You're done. Because I hate that shit. Driving in the rain at all, the pouring rain where it's like your windshield wipers are doing nothing.
Nope.
Nightmare scenario.
Yep.
Oh my God, I hate it.
And she was just, I mean,
barreling
it really took her to fall asleep, you know, to actually stop and pull over. Not the fear of just crashing into anything or anyone.
Everyone being like, what are you running from? And her being like, why do you say that? What do you mean? What do you mean?
Why do you ask that? Yeah. Am I acting weird? He's like, well, frankly, yes, you are acting very weird, actually. But yeah, and this, like, never the customer pressuring the salesman.
Yeah,
He's
this
like,
is the
what
first
the
instance
fuck?
of that ever.
It's like,
yeah.
Are you sure you don't want to take like a day and a half to
No,
think
yeah.
about
And,
it? And he's,
you're right about the second half being what people know about this movie, but the first half is the reason the second half works. You get endeared to Marion, even though she's not a bad person. She's done this thing and she's worried about it. She feels guilty about it, but she's like, I got to do what I got to do, and you kind of respect that about her. She did something. She took action into her own hands. She went and made it happen. Frankly, at this time, 1960, someone hands you $40,000 and goes, "Take this to the bank." Fucking adios. I'm out of there, bro.
Dude,
you are not gonna find, you are not gonna find me. I'm going to drive as long as I possibly can. Nobody has cameras on CCTV. Nobody can track me. Fuck yeah, I'm gone. Sorry.
And this dude, rich guy at the beginning, cowboy dude, that's like, yeah, I'll buy my unhappiness or my unhappiness with money, or whatever, whatever that is.
Buy off unhappiness. Yeah.
I don't have any qualms taking his money. He's like, yeah, I'm just buying this as a wedding gift. This how blah blah blah, whatever. And the dude's just flaunting his money. So like, this would be $40K. I would have no qualms taking from this dude. This dude doesn't need it. But he did seem like a crime boss, So I would be worried. I would be like, this dude's probably going to send goons after me. For the $40K, which is, I did think that she did get killed by a goon. I didn't, I'm like, maybe, this was one of those rich guy, an assassin sent to just kill her and get the money back. But then that quickly dissolved, but it was at least a possibility because Norman left the window open, that night, and at first I'm like, is he leaving it open so he can crawl into it, later on in the night, but then he has the key the whole time, and I'm like, I don't know. There was so many different things going on, and so many different web or different directions that it could have gone, and that's why I thought it keeps your mind racing, man. You are continuously thinking about where it's going to go next. It's not really, it's an active viewing, you don't exactly sit back and let it wash over you. You are constantly curious about what's going to happen next. And I think that's a strength of it. That's the power of suspense, and that's the power of the tension building that Hitchcock does here. But yeah, like I said, probably not my absolute favorite Hitchcock. I love a few of his movies, man. I love Vertigo. That's a really good one. That's the one that seems to pique my interest the most. I'm wanted to check some more of him out, and that was the one. I didn't know
if I could recommend something over any others. I would go with Rear Window. That's my favorite Hitchcock. Absolutely love it. I love Jimmy Stewart, which really helps. He's also in Vertigo. Rope is really good. That's another good one. The Man Who Knew Too Much. He's actually made two versions of The Man Who Knew Too Much because one was British and the other was American.
Okay. Which, have you seen both?
I've seen the American one. I saw the American one because it had Jimmy Stewart, and I like Jimmy Stewart a lot.
Hitchcock he's up there. At least the directors I need to check out. It's Kurosawa, Hitchcock, and Spielberg. Those are the three for me right now, at least that are on my radar.
Top of the list.
But
Hitchcock's well worth it, man. And Rear Window though. There's an elegance to that one that I really, really love, and I would love to eventually get around to covering it. I considered it for a Cinema Surprise episode, but I ended up passing it up. But
it's a good recommendation then.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
But But yeah, man, Psycho. It's a strong one, and I really, really love it. But I don't have much to say about it, and there's not much we can add to the conversation about Psycho. It's been discussed for 64 years now. I think most people have kind of done it. I don't think we need to do more than about 45 minutes here, because, like I said, pretty simple one. And man, is it fun though? It's a fun time, and it's a fun rewatch too. Kind of looking for the clues as to Norman's identity crisis going on, the conversation you hear him having, and re-listening to that, and the idea that he's carrying it out on both sides, and it's fun. It's a good watch, and I appreciate it a great deal. But let's see. Do you have any other parting thoughts?
I don't think so. I think we've hit every single part of the movie. I think there is, actually.
Pretty much, yeah.
Usually I'm like, man, I feel like I'm forgetting part of the movie.
Buried in a bog.
Yeah, it's just, that's true. I guess seeing the car go down and then like it fakes him out. It's like, he's like, oh fuck, what am I going to do now? And then it just starts to sink, again. He's like, oh, all right, cool.
He's like, oh,
that could have been bad.
Don't have to worry about hiding the body more. Yeah,
and then like the end shot is them pulling it back up. So, I guess they sadly found her body, but they got 40K if it's still not
probably pretty
drenched.
bad shape.
I don't know. Does it trunk? It's probably, there's water all in there.
Probably not sealed or anything.
Way.
But
but yeah, I think that is it.
All right. Now, love me some Psycho, and I'm excited to rate it and tell you what we're going to be covering next week. But in the meantime, I'm going to do the plugs. If you would, head to Twitter, follow @Cinementalists, as it is spelt in the name of the podcast here. That's where you can keep up with anything we're going to be covering. We've already well decided what we're going to be discussing for the rest of the year and into 2025. So nothing too surprising, but that's where you can keep up with us in case plans change. We're an offshoot of the Penny Bloom podcast. This is our movie show. So if you want to keep up with our larger scheme of things, you should follow @Penny Bloom Pod. That's where you can find anything else we're doing, because we do a Star Wars show, the Penny Bloom Dispatch. This Cinema Surprise Season 2 is coming up soon. We've got a lot going on, and Penny Bloom Pod is the place to be if you want to hear where all that is. But we're pretty focused here. This month, October, we're doing horror movies, and I'm very excited about it, because next week we will be back with the classic zombie flick, Night of the Living Dead. Another fun introduction for Joseph. And I can't another relatively simple one, but goddamn is it good. I'm excited to talk about it. So that'll be here. If you can, leave a 5-star rate and review wherever you might be listening, and download these episodes. If this is your first time joining us, we've already only done 3 episodes, but hey, if you're a Star Wars fan, they're perfect for you. Go ahead and watch the original trilogy back with us in your ear. Do that for me. We did some live comms. You turn the movie on, you watch it with us. It's a lot of fun. But let's go ahead and rate this thing on a scale of 1 to 10. This is the new Cinementalists ranking. You are going to give it a rating 1 to 10, period. 0.25 intervals if you see fit. How are you feeling about Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock?
This was on Letterboxd a gut 4. And I'd say after talking, it's either a 4 or 4.5. I think it'll probably stay at a. The only gripe, I guess, that I have with it at all is I wish they didn't explain the movie so hard at the end. I wish that it was just let the audience figure it out a little bit. That's pretty much it.
I mean, even if we take out the full explanation, because the explanation's also like quite the bedside manner on this gentleman. Whenever she's like, "So did he kill my sister?" He goes, "Yes and no." And then he does the whole explanation, and she's like, "So my sister's dead." And he's like, "Oh yeah, she's dead."
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
oh yeah, she's super dead.
She's dead, along with the detective too. Yeah, he's dead as well.
Yeah, all those people are dead.
She's just kind of like,
have fun. Yeah,
oh,
no. So
okay.
if you like cut that scene and you just go to him in the cell having the voice of his mother in his head, and all that, like maybe it's just trying to be dense for a movie-going audience in 1960. It's not trying to be too, I don't know. It's very exposition heavy at the end, so I can't blame you there.
But I mean, even then, it is exposition heavy, but I was having fun with it. Like, I'm like, the voice was classic, I liked hearing it, but it's just, as a movie, as that goes, I give the audience a little more credit, I feel like there. But I mean, I'm still pretty high up there. I'm like 8, like 4, like on Letterboxd. But I mean, I'm like 8.5 is kind of my floor, is what I'm feeling. So 8.5, it kind of felt right as gotcha. My gut. It's either that or an 8.75 for me. But I guess I'll stick with my gut and stay there.
I'm gonna give it a little more. I think that the filmmaking prowess from Hitchcock is enough to propel it. I think the performances are really good. The suspense and tension building is astounding. My gut takes me actually pretty high. I go 9.25 on this one. 9.25 out of 10. Just a classic. One of those ones that I feel kind of a must watch. If you've never watched Psycho, you got to watch Psycho. You know,
kind of a game changer. You know, maybe that does give it, make it deserve a little more. But if we do go with that, an average score would be an 88 or almost basically an 89, 89% there. So pretty much almost a 90 or a 9 out of 10, which I don't know. It is, cool. We're starting off the horror strong. That's for sure. Yeah. I don't know.
We've got some strong. Like I picked a slate of horror movies that I feel are kind of undisputably
just
fantastic. And these '60s ones, like we said, they're formative. They are.
Yeah.
With this one and Night of the Living Dead next week, they kind of. Night of the Living Dead basically created the zombie genre as we know it today. The way that this kind of created slashers in a capacity. But much more on the nose for Night of the Living Dead. Like, that did create zombie movies, essentially.
Yeah. Very excited for these, because I've been a lover of horror, but I've only seen the new stuff. I've only seen stuff that, that my uncle showed me at scary movie nights and stuff. Yeah, the normal stereotypical horror. But the
newest movie we're covering is 1981. So
perfect.
Yeah. The slate we've got for you. We're doing Night of the Living Dead next week. The week after that, we'll be heading to The Exorcist, another classic. After that, The Evil Dead, Sam Raimi, and then we will be capping it off on Halloween with Halloween by John Carpenter.
Yeah.
So
I guess
I'm
the
very
only one
excited.
I have seen, but very, very long ago.
It's so fucking good too.
Long
fucking good.
But
yeah, we got a lot to look forward to.
go.
I'm very excited. But yeah, so next week, come on back for Night of the Living Dead. And that concludes this episode of The Cinementalists. I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And remember, she wouldn't harm a fly.